The arena fell silent as Ambassador Zexthul watched the massive blast doors grind open with mechanical precision. The Krillian Empire's finest gladiator, Vorthak the Unbreakable, stepped into the crimson sand with the confidence of a being who had never known defeat. His obsidian carapace gleamed under the harsh arena lights, 4 muscular arms flexing as he tested the weight of his plasma weapons. At 12 feet tall and weighing nearly a ton, he was a monument to Krillian genetic perfection. "Your human champion is late," Zexthul observed, mandibles clicking with what passed for amusement among his species. "Perhaps they have reconsidered this foolish challenge." Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Diplomatic Corps maintained her composure, though her knuckles were white as she gripped the viewing platform's railing. The stakes couldn't be higher. If humanity's representative lost this ritual combat, Earth would become a vassal state of the Krillian Empire. Their entire civilization's independence hung in the balance. "He'll be here," she said, though uncertainty gnawed at her stomach. The arena's announcement system crackled to life, broadcasting in 17 different galactic languages. "Ladies, gentlemen, and sentients of all classifications, presenting the challenger from the primitive world designated Terra 3, representing the human species." The opposite blast doors began to open with agonizing slowness. Marcus "Brick" O'Sullivan. What stumbled out of the doorway was not what anyone expected. Marcus O'Sullivan was decidedly average by human standards, 5 feet 10 inches of wiry muscle wrapped in a stained tank top and cargo pants. His red hair was disheveled, his face flushed, and he carried what appeared to be a half-empty bottle of some amber liquid. He took 2 steps into the arena, swayed dangerously, then caught himself against the wall. "Oh, for crying out loud," he slurred, squinting up at the arena lights. "Who turned on all the bloody suns?" The crowd of thousands erupted in confused chatter. Zexthul's mandibles spread wide in what could only be described as gleeful anticipation. "This is your champion? A drunk vagrant?" Captain Chen's heart sank. She'd specifically requested Marcus because of his military record. Former Special Forces, decorated veteran of the Proxima Campaign, expert in 17 different combat disciplines. But looking at him now, weaving unsteadily as he tried to focus on his opponent, she wondered if she'd made a catastrophic mistake. Vorthak the Unbreakable raised his weapons and roared a challenge that echoed through the arena like thunder. The sound was designed to strike terror into the hearts of enemies, a primal scream that had broken the will of countless opponents before the fighting even began. Marcus blinked owlishly at the massive alien, took another swig from his bottle, and belched loudly. "Well," he said conversationally, "you're certainly having a day, aren't you, mate?" The formal combat protocols demanded that each fighter demonstrate their readiness. Vorthak went through an elaborate series of martial poses, each movement precise and deadly, weapons crackling with barely contained energy. The crowd cheered appreciatively. Marcus's preparation consisted of finishing his drink, tossing the empty bottle aside, and performing what could generously be called stretching, though it looked more like a drunk man trying to touch his toes, and failing. The fight began with a klaxon that made Marcus wince and clutch his head. Vorthak charged immediately, 4 arms moving in perfect coordination as he unleashed a barrage of plasma bolts that turned the sand to glass where they struck. It was a display of overwhelming force designed to end the fight in seconds. Marcus wasn't there anymore, moving with the fluid unpredictability of someone who was either very drunk or very clever, possibly both. He had somehow rolled sideways and come up running. The plasma bolts sailed harmlessly past him as he zigzagged across the arena floor in a pattern that defied tactical analysis. "Stand still, pathetic creature!" Vorthak bellowed, adjusting his aim. "Can't do it, big fellow," Marcus called back, now running in what appeared to be random circles. "Physics, you know, object in motion and all that." What followed was unlike any gladiatorial combat in the arena's 1,000-year history. Vorthak, trained in classical Krillian combat doctrine, found himself completely unable to predict his opponent's movements. Every tactical manual, every strategic principle he'd learned was useless against someone who seemed to be making decisions based on cosmic whim. Marcus stumbled, fell flat on his face, and rolled sideways just as a plasma bolt seared the air where his head had been. He bounced to his feet, ran straight at a wall, used it to redirect his momentum like a pinball, and somehow ended up behind Vorthak. "Boo," he said. Vorthak spun around, weapons ready. But Marcus was already gone again, now somehow on the opposite side of the arena, doing what appeared to be an impromptu dance. The crowd was mesmerized. This wasn't combat as they understood it. This was chaos given form, and somehow it was working. Frustrated beyond measure, Vorthak abandoned precision for brute force. He began firing indiscriminately, plasma bolts scorching the arena walls, melting sand into twisted sculptures of glass. The attack was devastating enough to level a building. Marcus, meanwhile, had somehow climbed onto a piece of arena equipment and was riding it like a mechanical bull, whooping with apparent delight as destruction reigned around him. "This is insane," Captain Chen whispered. It was then that Marcus did something that changed everything. As Vorthak paused to reload his weapons, Marcus stopped moving entirely. He stood perfectly still in the center of the arena, arms at his sides, facing his opponent with absolute calm. For the first time since the fight began, his eyes were completely clear. Vorthak, seeing his chance, raised all 4 weapons and fired simultaneously, enough firepower to vaporize a tank. Marcus moved. It wasn't the chaotic stumbling of before. This was something else entirely. Precise, economical, almost elegant. He flowed between the plasma bolts like water, each movement exactly sufficient to avoid death by the smallest possible margin. The drunk facade fell away completely, revealing the predator beneath. In 3 seconds, he closed the distance between them. In the 4th second, he was inside Vorthak's guard. In the 5th second, using nothing but momentum and leverage, he performed a move that sent 12 feet and 1 ton of Krillian warrior crashing to the arena floor with a sound like a building collapse. Vorthak tried to rise but found his nervous system had other ideas. The human had struck precisely at the junction where his carapace met his spine, a pressure point so obscure that most Krillians didn't know it existed. Marcus stood over his fallen opponent, swaying slightly, and patted his pockets until he found another bottle. "Good scrap, mate," he said, offering Vorthak a drink. "Though next time, maybe don't telegraph your moves quite so much." The arena was dead silent. Ambassador Zexthul stared in disbelief. "Impossible. Vorthak has never been defeated. How did a drunk primitive accomplish this?" Captain Chen smiled for the first time in hours. "That's the thing about humans, Ambassador. We don't always fight the way you expect us to. Sometimes our greatest strength is knowing when to appear weak." Marcus, meanwhile, had apparently forgotten about the thousands of spectators and was now examining the melted sand with the intense focus that only the truly intoxicated could muster. "Look at that," he said to no one in particular. "It's like a bloody art gallery in here." As the implications of humanity's victory sank in, as the Krillian Empire found themselves bound by their own laws of honor to treat Earth as an equal rather than a conquest, Marcus O'Sullivan sat down heavily in the sand and began to sing what sounded like an ancient Irish drinking song. The song echoed through the arena, carried by acoustics designed to amplify the sounds of battle, transforming a place of violence into something unexpectedly beautiful. And that, perhaps more than the victory itself, was the most human thing of all.